How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm giving you one of the videos that is the most requested from you guys over the last year or so. It's not my top 5, it's my top 10 cheap second cars that you can buy as a young driver. And I want to say second cars, I mean the kind of cars that you would upgrade to that are like nice and quick and fast and enjoyable, and then no longer the 1.2s and the 1 litres that you were stuck with when you were 17. And obviously they have to be insurable cars and not just crazy expensive. So for that reason I aim to have both the car and the insurance cost under £5,000 in total. And that's for a decently high performance car as well as decent insurance. Now I based the quote on being a 21-year-old living at home as a student, although I could have actually decreased all of my quotes by saying I lived away at a university with a nice cheap area to park in, which is what I did whilst I was at uni. But when I was 21, at home my quotes were around about £800. So with that in mind, I was thinking cheap would be anywhere up to double that, mostly because my Polo had 54 brake horsepower and some of the cars in this list have upwards of 250 brake horsepower. So we got a bit of a difference going on. And yes, I'm going through 10 cars in this video rather than the normal 5, so slightly less detail per car, but I think you'll like the variety. But before we get properly into it, I wanted to plug just one quick brand that have really sorted me out recently, which is Custom Car Prints UK. If you've spotted this in the background or maybe on my Instagram and that kind of stuff, this is sick. Clearly, as you can see, they've drawn a really good picture of me and my Polo from a real life photo as well, so I'll put that all on screen right now. I just think it's so cool and the quality is amazing, and they got this done within 2 days and had it sent out to me by the week afterwards. It's just a super cool job by them. If you want one of these for yourself, go follow them on Instagram, say that I sent you, and if you go onto their website, the link will be in the description. You can buy one of these for yourself and use the code JB15 at checkout and get 15% off, which is pretty decent. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff, and without further ado, let's get into the video. Starting us off at number 10, we have the E46 BMW 330i Sport, which hosts a 3-litre inline-6 M54 engine that puts out 228 brake horsepower and takes from 0 to 60 in around 6.3 seconds. One thing that sets it apart from all other cars in this list is the fact that it's rear-wheel drive, and trust me, that can make it a lot of fun on wet roundabouts. Maybe too much fun at times, so do be careful out there. The E46 is the 4th generation 3 Series, and despite this car being quite old, it does have some very decent features on it, as it was the first 3 Series with Valvetronic, aka variable valve lift, sat-nav, electronic brake force distribution, rain sensing wipers, LED lights, and all that good stuff. Though I've suggested going for just an example with the sport trim, there are some slightly rarer 330 Ci's available at a pretty decent price too, and they'll likely hold their value quite well. That said, these cars have seemed to hit quite close to the bottom of their price curve at this point, as you can pick them up from anywhere around about £1,000 for a high mileage example, up to around about £3,000 for one with around 75 to 90,000 miles on the clock. If you add on the quote that I received from an average location of £1,514, you'll be well within our 5k budget for a decent example. In terms of reliability, many owners suggest they're very decent, but I did notice a few problems, all related to the cooling of the car, like the coolant system failing at around 70,000 miles, water pump failures, and radiator bowing. So be sure to check the health of your BMW's cooling system before committing to buy. Despite the quote being the highest on this list, the key benefit to buying the E46 is how minimal your investment is up front, and let's not forget the drifting opportunities. In 9th, we have the first generation Audi S3, which I've spoken about in many previous videos as a staple cheap first car, so watch one of those videos for a full review. Under the bonnet, it has the renowned 1.8T engine putting out 222 brake horsepower and taking it from 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds thanks to its all-wheel drive Quattro system. This Quattro system is a Haldex though, so the car does operate as a front-wheel drive car unless grip is required at the rear. You can combat this by getting a Haldex controller in the car and adjusting the bias yourself, but this can be quite an expensive investment up front. It's a significant improvement over the A3 with additional sporty features as expected, but what I like about this car is how many additional options there were on it, especially considering the car's age. Optional extras include the 18-inch alloys, Bose sound system, heated front seats, and a bunch of other bits, so shop around a bit and you might find a good example. It's not a horrendously expensive car either, as you can pick up a high mileage example for around £2,000, but you'll want to be spending nearer the £3,500 mark for an example with around about 85 to 100,000 miles on the clock and a half decent spec. I got a quote of £1,480, which keeps a young driver just about within the 5k limit I was aiming for too. That 225 BAM engine in the car isn't bad on reliability either, but remember that these cars are often driven quite hard. One common issue is the coil packs going, but this is an inexpensive fix, so keep a set in the boot. Also, apparently changing the spark plugs sooner than their 40,000 mile suggested intervals will benefit you. Other than that, there were a few build quality issues, like the clutch pedal and electrical issues often affecting the lights, but in general not awful. I'm I'm a big Audi fan and this is a good engine, so I'd certainly be interested in getting one of these. If you want that 1.8T lifestyle for a cheaper annual insurance quote, look no further than the first generation Seat Leon CUPRAR R, which also has 222 brake horsepower but does 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds, slightly slower than the S3 as it's fully front wheel drive, despite being on the exact same VW platform. As it's on the same platform as the S3, I won't bore you with too many details, but one interesting fact is that when the car was first made available, it only came in 3 body colours: red, yellow and black, as a nod to the car coming from the Spanish company and owned by the German company. The car is renowned for being a solid and smooth car to drive, if a little bit underwhelming in terms of the excitement factor for some owners who prefer to smash a nice big exhaust on it and get more decibels than the quiet original exhaust provides. You can pick up one of these for as little as £2,500, and £3,500 will get you in with around 80 to 90,000 miles on the clock. I was able to get an average insurance quote of £1,384 too, so still way under that 5k mark. As the engine is the same as the S3, the reliability is pretty similar mechanically. The key thing with these is that they're often modified, so finding an untouched one might be a stretch. A decent looking car in my opinion, but not one that gets me massively excited. For the performance and insurance though, it's well worth it either way. Finishing up my trio of VW Group cars in this video is the Mark V Golf GTI. If you're a car person, I'm sure you'll be well aware of how heralded the GTI nameplate is, especially when put after the word Golf. This beast hosts a 2-litre inline-4 TFSI engine, putting out 197 brake horsepower and managing 0 to 60 in around 6.3 seconds with the manual box, or 6.1 with the DSG. Apparently that DSG box drops shifting time to just 8 milliseconds. The Mark IV GTI was not heralded particularly well in the car world, so VW knew they had to do something with the Mark V, and in my opinion it was certainly a step in the right direction, with a much nicer shape, look and feel to the car. The Mark IV felt like a highly spec standard Golf, while the Mark V does feel quite different. You can pick one up for around £2,000 with high mileage, or for around £3,500 you'll get one with less than 100,000 miles on the clock. Either way, the insurance quote I got for it was £1,376, which is good for a car of its calibre and history. In terms of reliability, squeaky cam belt pulleys and leaking water pumps are worth looking out for, as well as the ABS, which has failed in both the VW Group cars I've owned. However, the word bomb-proof is often used by owners, at least relating to the manual examples, as DSG can be a bit more hit and miss. I like the GTI and I think it says something positive about the person driving it on most occasions, given the nameplate's position in the car world, if that has any bearing on a decision to buy one. Let's cross the border from Germany to France now with Roguely, one of my favourite looking little hatchbacks in its price range, the Renault CLIO Renault Sport 197, which hosts a 2-litre naturally aspirated inline-4 engine, putting out 194 brake horsepower, as the 197 figure actually relates to the PS figure and doing 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds. I mentioned it in a video ages ago, which you should watch if you want a more in-depth view of the car, but it uses technology from Renault's Formula 1 division on the rear diffuser and brake cooling side vents, which is pretty sick. I'm also a fan of the noise it makes and the Recaro bucket seats that come in some well optioned examples. You can pick up one of these for as little as £2,500, but you'll start getting some decent examples with 80,000-ish miles on the clock for around about the 3k mark, which is not bad considering the insurance quote I got was £1,373. However, French cars are not renowned for their reliability, and this is where the Clio really falls down for me, otherwise I might have actually bought one last year. The TL4 6-speed gearbox is renowned for a synchro issue between 3rd and 4th gear, which you'll know is affecting your car if there's an intermittent crunch between the gears either way. Definitely test drive the car if you're thinking of buying one and check for this. I've seen horror stories of people changing them upwards of 4 times. Without that issue, it would be a favourite car of mine on this list, not just a favourite looking one, but I'd hate to have the fear of the gearbox issue whilst owning one and driving it around. On to the top 5 now, and in 5th bit of a car that I'm regularly told off for not including in videos, the Honda Civic Type R EP3, which is based on a 7th generation Civic. It hosts a 2-litre inline-4 VTEC engine putting out 197 brake horsepower and managing 0 to 60 in around 6.5 seconds according to Honda, although in the Japanese market apparently they'll do it in 5.8 seconds due to slightly different emissions laws. The EP3 was released in 2001 and had fewer features than the previous generation EK9, which had Recaro race seats and an LSD. To get these on an EP3 you have to buy the JDM edition of the car, which is a little bit annoying. You might want to consider getting a post 2003 model anyway, as they had numerous improvements over the pre-2003 examples, including revised suspension and a lighter clutch and flywheel assembly. These start at around £2,000, but a decent one with around 90k miles will set you back around £3,500, which seems to be a theme in this video thus far. Insurance came in at £1,274 as well. But the key benefit of this car is the reliability, which is at the other end of the reliability spectrum from the Clio I just mentioned. Owners really do attest to this car being a solid runner, and you'll find many of them with over 150,000 miles selling for a fair bit of money still for this exact reason. Only issue I could really find was the fading paintwork, and the need for a new timing chain every 100,000 miles. All in all, it's a great package. It's quick, it's relatively light, it's fun to drive, it's cheap, and it's reliable. I'm starting to understand why so many people like these Type Rs. It's another Japanese car taking fourth in this video, the first generation Mazda 3 MPS, or in some countries you might know it as the Mazda Speed 3 or the Mazda Speed Excella. It shares its award-winning 2.3 litre turbocharged inline-4 engine with the Mazda 6 MPS, which produces 263 brake horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds, making it the quickest and most powerful car on this list, yet I managed to get an insurance quote for it at just £1,199. This is another car I've done in-depth on a previous video, so go check it out for more info. What I will say though is that it has some amazing features for a car in its price range, including an LSD, traction control and dynamic stability control. It's also been made more structurally rigid to aid handling. You can get your hands on a high mileage example for around about £3,000, but good examples with under 90,000 miles start at just £3,500, so not a huge difference there. It's a reliable car too, with relatively few issues to note. Some points to check for peace of mind include the VVT actuator rattling, worn turbo seals, notchy first and second gear changes, and a loose engine mounting bolt, as some were recalled due to this issue. I personally highly rate this car for its almost sleeper status, as fewer people might notice it out on the roads, which provides a cool factor in and of itself, as well as lower protection from the fuzz. Taking third place in this video, we have the first generation VAUXHALL Corsa VXR, otherwise known as the Opel Corsa OPC in mainland Europe, which hosts a 1.6 litre turbocharged inline-4 engine putting out 189 brake horsepower and taking it from 0 to 60 in 6.8 seconds. This car is often associated with boy racers here in the UK, which is probably a fair stereotype, but that's not to say there isn't a decent car to own. It was the first VXR to actually be planned into the design of the car from day one, so aesthetically it's a tremendous and purposeful upgrade from the standard Corsa, with its sportier trim, alloys and interior. It also has a lot more torque than its rivals, like the aforementioned CLIO, meaning in the mid-ranges it really pulls, so 50 to 70 miles per hour is half a second faster than the CLIO. You'll get one of these for as little as £2,500, but a decent example will set you back around £3,000 with around 70 to 90,000 miles on the clock, but what really does it for me is the insurance quote, which is down to £1,083. Reliability on this is an interesting one. There doesn't seem to be a set of common problems, rather just the case that some second-hand examples are quite ropey, as they're often owned by young drivers that like driving fast and aren't particularly interested in maintenance. So for that reason, a test drive might be in order to actually get a feel for the car rather than jumping straight into a purchase. All in all, a car with maybe a sketchy reputation, but solid performance for the money and very decent insurance. In second place, we have a car that has an insurance quote that may surprise some of you. It's the R56 Mini John Cooper Works, which hosts a 1.6 litre turbocharged inline-4 engine, putting out 208 brake horsepower and taking it from 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds. Compared with the standard Cooper S, the JCW gets slightly more power, stiffer suspension, 17-inch alloys, Brembo brakes and BMW stability control, as well as other electrical equipment. It was loosely based on the John Cooper Works Challenge car, which is a purpose-built race car from BMW's motorsport factory. So that's a pretty cool claim to performance, as that factory has built F1 and touring cars for a long time. In terms of price, they're not cheap, starting at around £3,500, and just under £4,000 will get you one with under 100,000 miles on the clock. However, the insurance was so good that I just couldn't exclude it, at £1,010. Unreal for the performance and no black box with such a limited road experience for the driver. However, reliability is less than unreal. It's pretty shocking actually. Assuming you can't get the newer N18 engine within this price range and you get the older engine, it's renowned for carbon build-up and timing chain issues, with the latter issue being an expensive fix, so do be wary of this. Either way, still a good car for the money and a decent insurance quote for young drivers, but nothing like what's at number 1 on this list. I'm actually giving you two cars at number 1 in this video, as I didn't feel like splitting them apart, and they were both horrendously cheap to insure considering the performance, and both come from the same manufacturer. It's the Fiat 500 ABARTH and the Fiat Grande Punto ABARTH. Both host 1.4 litre turbocharged and intercooled inline-4 engines, with the 500 putting out 135 brake horsepower and the Punto putting out around 148 brake horsepower. The 500 does 0 to 60 in around 7.6 seconds with the manual box, while the Punto will go slightly slower at 7.9 seconds. The Grande Punto had a kit made available to it after it was purchased, purchased, which Abarth would install for you and get the power up to 180 brake, so it might be worth looking for one of these. However, I would suggest the Punto Evo Abarth is a much nicer looking car overall and somewhat more sought after. The 500 Abarth we are probably all well aware of, and this original version is the baby of the bunch, but still comes with some decent features like the sport suspension, sporty steering, 16-inch alloys, disc brakes all around, and some other cool stuff like a boost gauge and gear shift indicator. No, it's not a 595 or a 695, but it's still a cool little car, and non-car people probably won't know the difference. As they're both slightly newer cars, the mileages are slightly lower, but the prices are higher. A 2010 500 Abarth will set you back around £4,000, and a 2009 Punto Abarth will be around £3,500 for a decent one. However, the insurance absolutely banged. £824 for the 500 and £775 for the Punto. I'm even considering getting one as my own daily when I enact some mad projects on my Polo, as I reckon the insurance will be like 200 quid for me. On the reliability point, they are Italian cars, so you might expect bad things, but that 1.4T engine is surprisingly durable as it's built by robots with some insane consistency. The only thing to note is a few anti-roll bar drop links requiring replacing, but that's really not the end of the world. All in all, a decent set of cars to go for, though maybe not my absolute favourites out there. And though the performance isn't incredible, they probably do deserve the top spot on this list based on their insurance quotes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's been a longer one than normal, but I wanted to get those 10 cars and I wanted to get enough detail into each of them. Another massive thank you to Custom Car Prints UK for this bad boy. This is sick. As soon as I have an office, it's going to go up on the wall and it'll be in the background of my videos and stuff. I'm very gassed about this, as you can hopefully tell. As always, massive thank you to my patrons for their continued support. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.